what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WP Watercooler's WP Blab, episode number 128. Woo! I'm super excited about this particular episode. We're going to be speaking with Cory Miller in just a few minutes here, but before we begin with all of that, we're going to introduce ourselves. Bridget, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, my name is Bridget Willard, and I am a social media manager and marketing consultant for WordPress businesses and products, and you can find out more at bridgetwillard.com.
Awesome, Bridget. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog. I do this show as well as another show called WP Blab, which we found out I've been doing that since 2012. What the heck, really? It's crazy. Little bit of the October of 2012. And I'm happy to be doing this show with you folks. You can take a look at our particular, oh my goodness. You can, this particular episode is sponsored by Peepso. Feel free to go take a look at Peepso's information. We'll be talking about that towards the end of the show. And also desktop server, makers of ServerPress. So ServerPress, makers of desktop server. All right, folks. Well, we've been rude enough. I think we should begin. Cory, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. It's good to be here and talk to you guys. My name is Cory Miller, and gosh, you both did such great intros. Sink in with that. As it relates to the show, I have been doing WordPress for I think 13 years now. Now, currently, I'm a WordPress blogger, but I started a company called iThemes in 2008. Ran that for 11 years. In 2018, we were acquired by a great hosting company named Liquid Web, and just earlier this year, I left to start my next chapter in my professional career, and at leader.team. So you can find me at Cory Miller 303. It's a very Twitter name, and Cory.
Awesome.
That's so funny. I love those kinds of jokes. So we were thinking about this subject because there have been so many acquisitions in WordPress lately. One of my clients, Staging Pilot, just got acquired by Pantheon. Of course, we knew about iThemes. Genesis got eaten up by or acquired by WPEngine, et cetera, et cetera. WooCommerce was one of the major ones. Automatic is always gathering up WordPress places on the Monopoly board. Oh, we need to have a Monopoly. Why don't we have a WordPressopoly? Anyway, so today I was watching the Creative Brain documentary on Netflix, and the co-creator of Game of Thrones was talking about something that was really applicable to this episode. He said, as a writer, if I write something and people don't like it, that means they don't like me. And this is the problem that creators have. Whether you're writing literature, code, or music, we're always worried about what the other people think. And so how do you separate yourself from your identity, from your product, from your creation, the creator and the creation, right? So that's kind of a topic we thought you would do very well speaking at, because clearly you have. You built something, it acquired, you let them grow with it, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to do my next thing. Like any responsible parent who lets their college kid actually leave and go to college.
I love it. I love the setup and I love the question.
Me too.
It is so true. I mean, the context for this whole show that you gave, Bridget, is really fantastic because, I probably up until now hadn't thought of myself as a creator related to the business that I started and ran, grew, ultimately sold, and then now left. But gosh, the parallels are very compelling. So often in business, we refer to our startups, our businesses as our baby. And I've been guilty of that. For the first couple of years, it felt like it was in infancy, pooping and peeing on me all the time.
Oh, I love it.
At some point, midway through, I felt like, okay, we're getting the baby to kindergarten. We're graduating to adult supervision. And, the last 6 months, it's been 6 months now since I left iThemes. And when I say iThemes, what really has resonated with me or been the thing that I've felt the most separation about is my team. Running the team, the business and the team for 11 years, some of my best friends in life are a part of that team. And to say at some point after a very long stretch, I told you guys in the pre-show that I think it was the longest job I've ever had, 11 years. Before that, I was at about every 2 years, I'd switch jobs. But I got to tell you, above the brand, I think I love the brand. I'm always going to be attached to it, but it really is the people. And the fact that we spend so much time at work is what I mean. And we've developed these deep relationships. And that was an emphasis for me, is to develop really good relationships with the people I work with. And then to say goodbye, that's been the biggest disconnect and feelings that you kind of asked the question that the stage for sure.
I thought maybe that's what you would say, because you came to WordCamp Orange County 2014, 15-ish, somewhere in that range, and talked about how you hire people, and if you can't see them coming to your family dinner, that was a no deal. Am I remembering this correctly? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because building that company culture is so important, and even Gary Vaynerchuk with VaynerMedia, that has over 800 employees now, he does all the hiring for that reason, because you can train the talent, but that personality is so important. And how does it, I kind of feel like I know the answer to this question, but how does it feel to you seeing them with another duck, leading them around? It's no longer, you're not the front duck anymore. They're kind of imprinting on somebody else.
Yeah. Thankfully, that duck is the duck that walked with me for a long time in the business. His name is Matt Danner. He's now the general manager, GM for iThemes. I just talked to him earlier this week, and I got to tell you, it's a source of pride. Probably about a month after I left, there was this, okay, they don't really miss me that much feeling, if I'm just being honest with you.
Oh my goodness.
But to see Matt and the team doing so incredibly well after I had left, and I didn't want to ever cast any type of a shadow, so I tried to really pull away and let them kind of play their own songs, and they're playing a different song, which I knew that would be the case, and it's a good thing for me. I think as creators, like you set the stage, Bridget, could potentially feel a little like, oh man, they're not playing my song. Absolutely, that was a part of my journey in this whole thing. But the overwhelming part was being very honest. These people are some of the best people I've ever met in my life. I'm really proud that they're able to operate very successfully without me.
Yeah, I can relate. That's how we did our Sunday school. We just trained the teachers, let them do whatever they wanted. Not whatever, but like within reasonable parameters. But even most recently, I saw yesterday, Jason, that Yvette and Chabon, two of the people I recruited for the marketing team, led Contributor Day yesterday at WordCamp Europe. I was like, those are my ducklings. They did it without me. It's so cool.
Isn't that awesome?
That's awesome. But I think if somebody took one of those songs from my CD and totally ruined it, I would have a different feeling. So that's potential, right? So clearly you made good choices when you were building your team, Cory. But what would you say to the person who kind of is in the mid-range? They have a significant number of active installs. They're kind of on that edge of maybe they should take some venture capital or mortgage their house to grow a little bit with support. What would you say to that person, right there on that kind of, how much of me needs to be really involved in this?
As far as taking money, my premise is always use somebody else's money, not yourself. I've kind of felt that way for a long time. Use somebody else's money to have fun and do really meaningful work in the world. If somebody's on tinkering on the brink, it's this chapter that I'm going through now in my professional career. It's a totally new chapter that I've written a couple chapters in the past. Now it's completely new. Really has brought me back to, gosh, how incredibly hard it is to go out on your own, to start something new, to try to get a snowball, kind of bunched up in your hands and kind of push it, try to get more snow. And, oh man, am I pushing uphill as I try to get the snowball? That's really, really tough. And I have such a big heart for entrepreneurs because I am one. I've been there before. The heartache, the heartburn, the doubt. I kind of, not to say my ride was easy at all. It was always up and down, but I kind of got so distant from my early years at iThemes that forgot how incredibly tough and doubt, the insecurity, the doubt that crept in. It's a tough sport. And so I always love to encourage entrepreneurs. So for that entrepreneur, I'd say, one, if it works for you, take somebody else's money, use their money. But two is, if this is something, your passion, something you're interested in, you see impact, stay the course. It keeps you going until it doesn't work anymore. But that's probably the words I want to hear right now too, is just like, it's an uphill battle. Just, make sure it's connecting to what you want to do in life. But man, you're doing great. Keep going.
That's cool. That's cool. It's like that weird Shark Tank question that they have where they're like, so how much money do you have in this particular business? And then it's not even like the equity part, it's not the percentage part, it's none of that stuff. It's just like, how much money did you put into this and how much did you end up with? And so, when they're super impressed when they throw $10 into it and then they make it into $10 million, but then they're like, what the heck? You spent $5 million on this product and you've only sold 7 of them? Okay, obviously you didn't do market research. Obviously you didn't do any of that stuff. So I think there's that weird balance that you have to kind of have to figure out what's what. I mean, I myself haven't started a business and then turned around and sold it. I haven't gone through that journey yet. But it's fun to watch, especially like a Shark Tank type thing, or even when you're sitting there listening to other entrepreneurs kind of explain where they are and how they went through all those trials and tribulations and stuff. What have you seen in in your friends and in the people that you work with, how they've kind of gone through those things of either acquisitions or either acquiring or being acquired? Like, what have you seen in that you're able to speak on a little bit?
So I had 2 friends here in Oklahoma City that actually sold and exited their businesses before me, and very, very dear friends of mine. And I saw them walk through the process of exiting something they had helped start that was a part of their identity, kind of as Bridget laid out. And so I had some preparation, having seen their lives, or what their journeys were, of selling something that does feel very like a part of you that you're giving away to somebody else, and all of a sudden they rip it out and you feel like, oh gosh, I don't know what's going on. So I had those 2 experiences before I started iThemes. And then at iThemes, we did several acquisitions. They didn't look exactly like ours, but acquisitions during our tenure. So I've been around it from both sides, being the acquiring party and then selling. I will tell you that the 2 friends of mine that went through it, and I got to walk with them through their journey, I thought, okay, I'm prepared. I've seen all the, potential pitfalls and the downs, particularly the downs in the journey. And it's been a tough journey, because I think, like you guys put, and I'm so glad for you to put it, this concept, this theme out there for this discussion, because when you build something, whether it's with your hands or your blood, sweat equity, over the amount of time, at least I did, and my friends that I've seen, gosh, you do feel so woven into that, and then it's like, okay, and knowing, like we just said, how hard it is to kind of start over. It's a very tough thing. It's something entrepreneurs, I think, have these type moments, particularly with if it's successful and then having an exit too. But I mean, even getting this business off the ground and succeeding, having some measure of financial success is rare. I mean, it's not the statistic. And so, I talk about quite a bit that, my parents didn't really understand. One, they don't know what I do. They thought I probably did the IT and did upgrades for Windows 95 at some point. But the other thing is, to start a business and to be responsible for somebody else's paycheck. It's a foreign concept. So it's a very unique life that we live as creators, as entrepreneurs. It's a very awesome one, though. I mean, the highs are equally, if the lows are really low, the highs are there too. I don't know if I actually answered your question, Jason, but
no, I think you did a good job there. I've worked for companies that have been acquired, and I've seen it where the stakeholders will come in and say, hey, just let you know, here's what's going on, here's how we're going to approach this. I don't want anybody to leave, but I understand if you do, like that whole kind of thing. Like, how is that approached? How do you manage that? Because I mean, to me, whenever I thought about iThemes, I thought about you. Like, I thought about you as the company. To be perfectly honest, I don't know how many people were on your team. I know that there were people that were on your team, but I don't know if there was 100. I don't know if there was 10. But I whenever I thought of iThemes, I always thought of you. That was you and your brand. So yeah, how did you approach them as a team and just been like, hey, here's what's going to happen?
So, if I look back about my career at iThemes, building the business and the team and everything, one of the emphasis that we had, looking back now, this is kind of apparent to me, is that we managed change and crisis over the years in various forms. And something I felt some amount of pride for is being able to lead our team through change and crisis. The biggest one, of course, well, crisis was another thing, but change was, being acquired, rolling out and saying, hey guys, we've sold the business. And that was huge. Obviously it wasn't, the decision came to overnight, and some people chose not to continue, which was not really shocking. But overall, we tried to say, as we did with every change, is we care about you. We've been thinking about you in this process, but here are the positives for this. And, no one, including myself, by the way, likes the word change. It's a dirty word. It should be a 4-letter word, because the way most humans, including myself, react to it.
Exactly.
So presenting that change was big, and we knew that. And so again, having Matt with me and some key long-term team members with us to be able to say, here are the reasons why this worked. Look at the situation we're in the marketplace. Most of the managed hosting companies, in fact, any kind of hosting companies, has some kind of backup, a part of the platform. And we're like, Backup Buddy has been our big star for a long time, rightfully so too. But
all the time.
Yeah, thank you. We kind of saw the writing on the wall, going, okay, we get it. We're a utility feature set for the most part, backup, security, maintenance. And at some point, the hosting companies, just logic, looking at strategically down the road, they're gonna start aiming at all those areas. And so we saw, GoDaddy purchase managed WP. All that to say, that's what one part we laid out is, here's the table. We've been a bootstrap company, very scrappy for a long time, but there's a lot of money, a lot of players in place now aiming at us. The second was going, okay, then, hey, you wanted any kind of upward mobility in the company, Matt or I had to leave. That was our, organizational structure. And by the way, we had about 25 people when we were acquired.
Okay.
It was like, okay, well, if you want career up, to do something different, one of us have to leave. Now, Now we're joining forces with Liquid Web, who has 600 people, and there's mobility within the company. You can make a,
Right.
the third was going, okay, look, if there's one metric that we know why Liquid Web is a good partner is the Net Promoter Score. You guys are familiar with the NPS.
Yeah.
NPS rivals, Apple and Costco. And we're like, okay, they're driven by this one metric. We love our team, we love our customers, and we know we have to have a really good team to serve our customers. If anything, this is a good play because they obsess over NPS and serving the customer. This bodes well for everybody. And knowing there was a vision and connection with the executive team, who are fantastic, the leadership team at Liquid Web, fantastic, very Midwestern values kind of people, and where we're located. And so all of that to say, hey guys, this is why we feel like this is a really good deal for all of us, not just me as an owner, but all of us.
Well, I like that you had intention and that you communicated your intention, because I've been on the backwards side, on the other side, back in my construction days, where the company I was working for was slowly bought out by the Sun or something like that. And then slowly, as the parent's influence dies, the Sun influence grows, and your pay sort of stagnates and bonuses sort of disappear. And it's just like the frog in the pot, where all of a sudden you're like, what in the world? I have not had a raise in 9 years. I'm out of here. You don't even realize it till, until it's like so obvious. The culture was just slowly disintegrating, And so like a lot of times in the WordPress space, I've seen this like just in me being around heavily, like reading Twitter, going to WordCamps the last 5 years or for whatever it's been, 4 years. I've seen like the t-shirts go away, mortgages, kids, divorces, acquisitions, like the community itself is growing up. And there's a lot of times, and Matt Mullenweg talked about this in the State of the Word in 15, I think, when he said, you really shouldn't be a one-person shop. Jason Lemieux from Postmatic asked that question. What about the one-person shops? And he's like, you shouldn't be that. Like, we didn't know at the time he was thinking Gutenberg, and that was going to be like, every 2 weeks for having a new update or something. So anyway, I mean, that's the reality, right? And then you get Gutenberg, all of a sudden all the theme companies are selling out because I wouldn't want to maintain that beast. But aside from that obvious, like seeing the direction, what about you just have a product? You just have this awesome product, you build it, it's great. But now you're growing. So in order to grow, you have to delegate some of that branding, and you have to like trust a team without you touching everything. How do you address the micromanaging creator in the WordPress space so that he can grow, he or she or they can grow?
Okay, I want to answer your actual question, but when you're talking, Bridget, I was thinking of a couple of things. Number one is it still baffles me, and it shouldn't, but it still baffles me that there are companies and organizations that think that they can treat people like a machine, cogs in a wheel. Assembly line leadership is what it's called. Assembly line leadership, where you are a machine, you're a cog in the system, and we're going to use these robotic tactics to get more productivity out of you, and it doesn't work. So, okay, let's throw more people at it. That's our solution. When it comes down to leadership is one simple skill. Care.
That's just crazy talk.
Right? I'm such a heretic, and I'm okay with that.
Novel concept.
Rocket science, like science leadership package, the 100 steps to, create a culture where people love to come to work, give their best, I should make that in a rocket science. Comes down to for humans, put them in a position where they can do best. So I wanted to rant on that, and I'm sorry, Bridget, but I had to rant on that first.
Dude, rant away. That's why you're the guest.
I'll try to get to your actual question. The second is, I will tell you, by the way, the first concept I just mentioned, the whole care thing, is not just organizations, but it's also open source communities. If you care for people, they'll care about what you're doing, and you too. It's a very simple concept, but it does go along, families, organizational business structures, and open source communities, by the way. Okay, the second is, in the absence of communication, and this is a PG show, so I'll say, people will make crap up. In the absence of very good communication, and when I say good, it's just telling people, here's what's kind of going on, keeping people in the loop, humans will make it up. Our brains are wired to go into the fear state and to make things up. So I was trying to think back what we were relating that to, but just simple good communication. Here's what's going on. Alleviates a lot of fear, because in the absence of that, we will make it up. Okay, getting to your question. I think your question was, how do you go from a one-person shop to building something that can exist or run? You can actually take a vacation, I think is the question.
Yeah. How you're not the buck doesn't stop at your Slack channel.
Yeah. I think as entrepreneurs, by the way, and so entrepreneurs can kind of be labeled as craftspeople, craftsmen, craftswomen at some point. Like, we know how to do HTML and CSS, and that's our craft. And we get such pride, fulfillment from that. And that's a different brand of entrepreneurship, which is totally fine. I happen to be not that person. I'm not very good at a lot of things, specifically the web technology we're talking about. And I think it's hard when you are a craftsperson that you find such great pride and love, and you kind of tick the box of satisfaction with doing something in the craft, like coding, design related to this, to technology. And that's very hard, I've seen, for people to give up when you have that kind of craft, because it's very personal to you. And this creator, in this creator mindset, it's very hard to delegate. And I've seen some of my best friends really struggle with that, because they are craftspeople at heart. Like, they love lining pixels and making sure the code is perfectly, Jason's shaking his head because
yep.
Get that. And there's great joy and satisfaction from that. And I think that makes it harder to delegate that task when you go, God, this is my craft. This is my love. This is, if it's a pixel off, it's going to keep me up at night. It's a challenge. I
bet.
Yeah, you don't see me outsourcing. I'm not going to let anybody tweet for me. You crazy?
Well, Bridget, we've talked about this in that when you're someone who, like, both you and Jen Miller both do this, where you become the voice of your client's persona. You take on that persona and you start writing with it and stuff. And one of the questions you asked Cory earlier was, like, you go from being like the you're not only Cory Miller, but you were also iThemes. Like, whether you were the one tweeting, you the one doing the Facebooking, you're the one writing the blog post, whatever any of those things are. At some point, the folks in your business were putting in enough words to make it into that persona that you go, that's an iThemes post, that's an iThemes tweet, that's an iThemes Facebook update, like any of those sorts of things. But then when you leave from that, you have to turn around and go, like, oh my gosh, like, they're changing things.
I have experienced that 100%. I'm like, well, I've always had this philosophy as an employee, and now I'm a freelancer with clients, and I retain this philosophy. And that is, the business owner has the right to be wrong.
Yeah.
I have the right to fire them. So I will do that, and I've done it gracefully. But like, when I get on sales calls with people, and I've been on sales calls with, really big companies, especially when I was running my discounts, and they're like, well, I don't understand why we need a Twitter account. I'm like, because I'm finding this information out from employee X. And they're like, that's great. I go, it's great until employee X goes and works for XWP or Human Made, right, or whoever, right? Because I've got the loyalty with employee X, not brand Y. the brand should always come first. And when you treat, I mean, I know this from a branding perspective, that if you treat the brand as primary, it's much easier for anybody to be cross-trained. So people in a small organization could go on vacation. When I was with Give, they made me go on vacation. I was like, who's going to tweet? They're like, you're not going to do it. I'm like, it's fine. They're like, no, you're not. Like, they would not allow me to. And I had to be like, because I'm one of those people that takes ownership. I'm like the best employee people ever had. It's really bad for my personal life. Because I'm like, nobody else could do it. And they're like, we're fine. Take 2 weeks off and leave us. It's okay, Bridget. I'm like, it's not, but they might use the wrong hashtag. I mean, it could be really bad. Like, people don't value Twitter until somebody makes something really wrong, and, and then you could be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I wouldn't do that. But the good thing about, the good and bad thing about the internet is screenshots live forever, and also you can just change it. So that's the good and bad, or the bad and good. It's not print. It's not print. It's fine. But I get that, like, at some point that the culture has to be documented in a branding book, so that anybody can take that up and go, this is what we don't do, this is what we do. Did you guys do that at iThemes?
We didn't have a lot of documented processes, honestly.
Oh, really?
We had one real policy when we were acquired. And but I believe that in answer to that, the values live on in the stories that you tell, the people, the embedded stories. So we focus on that quite a bit, is that we wanted to be able to take vacation and we were away different parts, and that I wanted to empower our team to make decisions, not necessarily exactly the way I would have made them, but with the values. And I think values are really embedded in stories. And so, hey, when we left and you guys made this decision, we try to make those stories, known within the team, to say, this is how we do. Now, I want to go back to something.
I love this, though. I wish I had heard this when I was married, because I didn't like the way he loaded the dishwasher because it was wrong. And he didn't like the way I loaded the dishwasher because it was wrong. And at some point, I was like, the dishwasher's loaded. Who cares? I should have thought, like, the story he's thinking in his mind, just like that Brene Brown, the story I'm writing in my mind right now. Yeah. Sorry, continue, Cory. This is marriage advice, everybody.
Yeah, early on in the business, I had a friend of mine, dear friend, said that if you want to see how your business is really running, leave for 2 weeks. Go on like an airplane mode type vacation, where, I mean, you're almost inaccessible. And typically at that time, it was like a cruise. So I went on a cruise. I said, hey, I'm going to check email once a day, put fire in the subject line. And I didn't get any emails. And it's this amazing thing when you put adults in charge of, like, give them freedom to make decisions. I remember coming back, though, various points in our tenure, and someone had made a decision in my absence. And I was like, well done. Thank you. And that's a term that Google has kind of pioneered, called psychological safety. And
yes.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a lack of that in organizations today. It's not psychologically safe to make decisions. I hear clients rant about our people don't have critical problem solving skills. And I said, well, in my mind, it just goes off like, well, do they feel safe to make a decision? Do they feel like they're going to get ridiculed, punished, or potentially lose their job over making a decision? So our people, I was like, well done. They're like, I don't know if it's the right decision. No, it was the right decision. There's no debate. There's no question. You made the decision based on our values, and I'm going to live with it. It doesn't even matter trying to go back and go, would I have made the exact same? It doesn't matter. You made a decision. I want to affirm that you made them with our values in mind. That's safe. I had a long time team member. He was in a really toxic organization before he came to us. Because I just want to thank you, because I feel free to potentially, not that I purposely make a mistake, but to make a mistake and not feel like I'm gonna lose my job. You know, okay, you sidetracked me, Bridget, but I wanted to say something. Back to the whole micromanagement, delegation, one person trying to delegate. For me, I think the solution is twofold. One is the vision. What do you want out of life? If it's to be the sole person, and if you're a woodworker, to make the table and ship the table, then do that. Like, I am no place to ever judge an entrepreneur for wanting to do that. You should do. This is the equation for entrepreneurship. It should, you should build the life and the work that you want and be rewarded for that. But the other thing is, so vision is the first. I think, where do you want to go? What do you want life to look like for your work? But the second is, I think, pretty big in that, how painful is it to do everything by yourself? For me, I worked support for the first 8 months in iThemes, and it was hard work. I'm telling you, support people on software have the toughest job in a software company. They get all the crap, few of the praise. But I did that for 8 months, and I thought, at some point I want to do other things and not just do front level support. And so my pain, at some point I wanted to, I wanted to take off the hats that were very painful and give them to somebody else that go, oh God, that's my favorite hat. I don't get pain from it. I get pleasure. So that was my thought, going back to your delegation thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to do that even in my own little tiny business. I was talking to one of my clients today, and I felt really bad because my roommate is one of my very best friends, but I also pay her $20 a load to do my laundry. I don't have time. I can't do everything that I'm doing in order to do my client's work, manage a chronic illness, recover from surgery, and pay off my dental loan debt. Isn't this a beautiful smile? It's a Kia Optima. Okay. So like, I can't do that unless I pay Wendy to do housework. And she says, Bridget, why do you feel so guilty? And I was like, why do I feel guilty? She needs the extra work. I need the help. I have the money. She has the time. I don't know why we feel guilty by getting help, but it doesn't have to be everything, but it could be some things. Did we lose Cory?
No, he's just muted.
Oh, okay.
He's probably having the same issues I'm having, where I have all these outside environmental things that keep going off here. So
yeah, I mean, that's a real thing though. And so she told me, why do you feel so guilty for getting help? You don't have to do everything. And if I choose to outsource my housekeeping, that's fine.
Yeah.
So when I met my wife, and man, I hope she forgives me for telling this story, but when I met my wife, she goes, we were dating and, fall in love and all that stuff. And she goes, so I have something to tell you. And I go, okay, what is it? And she goes, I don't clean toilets. I go, good. I don't mow lawns.
That is awesome.
Awesome. I love it.
That is what I've been telling the people I've been meeting on eHarmony, which is not our 40-minute marks sponsor, but our 40-minute mark sponsor for the tool and tip of the week is brought to you by Peepso. Peepso is a super light, free social network plugin for WordPress that allows you to quickly and effortlessly add a social network or an online community right inside your WordPress site, your community, your way. You can find out more at peepso.com, peepso.com. So my tool or tip of the week is Feedback WP. Okay, so this guy Vito made this thing. It's super awesome. I a lot of times do QA. Like, I'm not just a social media nerd. I do work for agencies, and even when I was with Thought House, where like I do QA on a site that we're launching or something like that, or one of my clients is launching. And so CodeBrain Media just started using this. They bought the lifetime license. It's on sale right now or whatever. OMG, you guys. So I don't have to do a Google Doc and say, okay, third line down, or some spreadsheet, instead of this words, make it this words, or there's some weird line here or something like that. Especially because I'm not a coder. I took some HTML and CSS, and I stopped when I had to do 5 projects on Free Code Camp. But so it's it's in the front end. You click on the thing that you want to make a comment on, just like a Google Docs, but better. You click on it, it brings up a box, and you say, there's a weird line in the background right here. Save. You click here, I really want this picture to be a different one. Save. And then the person who's the business owner role, because it has 3 different roles, gets that feedback visually. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I wish I had it 5 years ago when I was working at Thought House. It would have saved me so much aggravation, and probably the developer who was trying to interpret my Gen Pop way of explaining that something didn't look right. I love it. It's awesome.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I have one. Do you want me to go first? What do you think? Cory, you want me to go do it? All right, I'll do it.
Sorry.
So perfect. So I recently moved offices. I used to have an office that actually had a window, and now I'm in a basement, and I'm in the very far corner of the basement, and I don't have a whole lot of. There's not a whole lot of stuff to look at. You know, I'm just in my office as normal, but I don't have that window. And but I'm also one of those nerds that has like 10 monitors on their desk, right? I have a monitor for everything. There's so many monitors sitting on my desk, and I wanted to have something that just constantly changes. I want my wallpaper to change. I want all that stuff to happen. But I have multiple monitors. I have 3 monitors on my computer, and I'm like, how do I make this all be like this one cohesive image, like this just one really nice image? And so, you know, as you do, you start Googling, and I think I probably spent like an hour and a half Googling
wow.
it out, because I'm like, I got to find the right way to make this happen. So I found this company. It's actually in the Mac App Store, and you can go download it. It's free, and it's called MultiMonitor Wallpaper. And what this thing does is it does exactly what I wanted to, because if I wasn't going to find this, I had to code it myself. And I'd have to like, okay, let's figure out how I'm going to make this work. You give it the dimensions of your monitors, it gets it all figured out. Like it just loads it up and does it. And then you tell it, here's the place I want you to go look for these photos. And I told it, I was like, well, I want you to go look for everything that's on all of these like free wallpaper websites and free image websites and that sort of stuff. And what it does is it goes and takes that photo and then chops it up into pieces, and then puts each section of each piece on each of the monitors.
How cool.
So I have a vertical monitor for my coding, I have a horizontal monitor, and then I have my laptop monitor. And it actually chops up the image. So I typed in that I wanted sunsets. So I just typed in the word sunset, hit search. Found a sunset, chop, chop, chop. And then it put all 3 of them on the screen, and I was done. And what's crazy about it is when I close up my laptop and take it home, I open it back up again, the app goes and says, something changed. And it goes and finds another image and then replaces it so just the one monitor has the image.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then when I'm sitting here at work, it looks at it again and it goes, well, you have a monitor up here and you have a monitor down here at home. So I know what the orientation's like. I'm going to make you a custom wallpaper just for that. So the sun's up here and then the ground's down here.
That's awesome.
Really cool. So when I go and walk away from my desk, I have a command that I use that just kind of hides all the windows. And then when I come back to my desk and log back in, I see all the wallpapers turned on, and I see that like, oh look, it's the sunset. Oh, it's the moon or whatever. But I get to see all of that, and it's all nicely chopped up, so it looks like one big image, even though it's 3 different ones.
That's so cool.
It's pretty cool. I really like it.
You gotta take a picture and post it for us.
Right?
Yeah, I sure will. It's super fun, and it uses a lot of the photos from Unsplash. So if you're a huge Unsplash fan like I am, it goes and finds like the highest quality Unsplash, and it'll also look on Flickr for images that are on Flickr as well. So if you have like a really good, some really cool photos that are in there, it just uses search to find it. So you can put your username on Flickr and maybe something else, and it'll do it. But yeah, it does some really cool stuff.
I think a while back, I actually asked about a stock photography site, and Bridget, I think you were one of the many people that were like, no,
Unsplash. 100%.
Unsplash, yep.
It's
Yeah, I
social
like
media,
Unsplash.
you're always having to use some random tool.
Okay, my tool tip, you want it?
Yeah.
Yes,
What do you
sir.
got?
Okay, so in the context when you asked about this, of the theme of this show, which is, identity and change and all that being kind of pulled apart from your product or whatever your work of art is in the world, it made me think about transitions. Life is about transitions, change, and one of the books in the last year that has been so instrumental is a similar for helping me in the transition of leaving the company that I started and founded and ran and all that, and the team is literally a seminal book called Transitions: Making Sense of Life Changes by William Bridges. I think this book is 20 plus years old, but it is a classic and it is incredible for managing some of the transitions in life, and has helped me specifically with the latest one, which is leaving the company. But I will tell you, I'm 43 now, but I hit 40 a couple years ago, and midlife is a real thing. Research out on it, and I wish I had this book a couple years ago, but even before the work transition thing. But I know this is not the last, or even perhaps the biggest transition I'll ever go through, and that book is something I very leaned on for perspective and insight into how to manage that well.
That's awesome.
And so
Hey.
it also talks about managing resentment as well, right?
That's a big thing when it touches your identity, right?
Yeah.
Wait, because I'm looking here, I'm like, oh, here's some things that people might experience: resentment towards a change initiative. Low morale and low productivity. Yeah, there's that too. Anxiety and the role, status, and identity. And then skepticism about the change initiative. It's like, yeah, all those things.
Everything on that iceberg diagram from your WordCamp talks, Cory. Below the surface.
Yes, the iceberg is real. The view of life as the iceberg is so real. People talk about my sharing publicly about that, and I go, that was years ago. I had a friend, a colleague, say, hey, I know you talked about mental health in the past, but are you good now? And I'm like, every day, brother. Like, it wasn't a one and done thing. It's every day living life as a human on this earth, that things will happen. Transition is a great handbook, a great resource for anyone. And I think there's some big changes. We live in kind of technology, the three of us. Technology's effect on the world is going to be big. And I think about my kids. I've got a 6-year-old and 4-year-old, and think about what life they're going to inherit and walk into. It's going to be different. And things like this book, I think, are just incredibly helpful.
Well, I mean, technology in general, right? And so, like, my grandmother's 100. She just turned 100. She was born in 1919. When she was born, there was no federal income tax. Okay? Because federal income tax, seriously, wow. Federal income tax came after Prohibition because all the money came from alcohol taxes. Then when we had Prohibition, we instituted the federal income tax. Okay? And what's funny is she retired from the IRS. That's a little irony. But so she's seen the horse and carriage, the automobile, airplanes, a man landing on the moon, and computers in your hand. It's insane, the huge leaps in technology that she has seen in her lifetime. So it's not that crazy to think, we're living in the Jetsons now, but like your kids, who knows what's going to be like in 10, 20 years when they're in college and getting married. They might actually have those Jetson cars. Like, that's the only thing left because we have the video conferencing and the robot maid. So like we're pretty much only missing that. For the Jetsons.
My kids are a little bit older than yours, Cory, and my oldest daughter, she's 23, and she has said the music that the kids these days are listening to, and I looked at her and I go, what the, like, back up a little bit. Did you just hear what you said? She's like, yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like the amount that, if you think you're old, I'm really old. And that transition between her going from like, and a a teenager to now a young adult, and having her go and actually look back and go like, oh my gosh, only a couple of years ago was I in high school. Now I'm looking back going, oh my gosh, like the music these kids are listening to nowadays, the stuff the kids are into these days. And I'm just like, you are still a kid. Like, to me, you're still a kid.
Even worse is when it was stuff you were wearing in junior high, Jason.
Yeah.
So like, that's what me and my friends are going through in the 46 to 50-year-old range. We're like, you guys are wearing everything from the 90s. You're just missing the claw bangs. But anyway, like I'm going to put that, for me personally, I'm definitely going to add that to my Amazon wish list. And also it'll be in the show notes, of course. But Cory, like, seriously, thank you for being on the show. I knew when we thought about this topic, you were the go-to person, not just because you've been through it successfully, but you're one of the few, but you're pretty okay with talking about your feelings about it. And, you know, being like, well, hey, yeah, I saw that. And it was kind of a bummer, but then I was like, well, they did it. I don't really want to do it. So now I'm doing my own thing. Like, now you're breeding that a generation of leaders. Can you just, like, in the last few minutes,
please,
kind of tell us about your new project? Well, new-ish. I know it's not brand new, but
yeah, thank you.
Leader.team or team.leader, which
Leader.team.
Leader.team.
He doesn't want to buy another really expensive domain name, you know.
No.
Just do a 303, Cory.
This would be a quiz. Where does the 303 come from? So over the life I was involved with iThemes, my greatest joy was building people. I'm not a software developer. I was at some point a very lame designer, but the biggest joy I had, and I believe one of my strengths, is building people up, investing in people. And that's why I say, going back to iThemes is running great without me. It's a source of pride, because building people, trusting people, letting them fly. So, and then parallel to that, I've been a part of an entrepreneur group, several entrepreneur groups for the last 8 years. And it's been some of the most incredible life change that have happened. Walking with your peers together in groups that meet regularly, consistently. And so blending all of that together, I want to do a different form of leadership development, which is small groups of leaders walking together. I want to help facilitate those. And so my partner, Jeff, and I, our new venture is Leader.team. And so we put some things out there in the wild. We're trying to dial in that particular offering and audience. But that's what I'm doing next. I'm super excited about, to have some clarity and to really kind of take a step back and refocus and go, okay, what's the next chapter look like for me? I've got a lot of energy and years, I hope, in the tank, and I want to give it back in a very impactful way. And this is how we want to do it, is helping build the next generation of leaders to really do some amazing work. Get away from the assembly line of leadership, lead people as humans to do really good things together.
That's cool. That's cool.
Not just a sweat from menopause. I got a tear in my eye.
Me too. I'm outside, and I told you it's humid in Oklahoma here. And,
it's humid in Bridget land all the time. You want to close us out, Jason?
Yeah, no problem at all. I want to say thank you very much for both of you to be on the show. For Cory, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I love that we're able to get great folks like you to come on a show like this and be able to talk about this. And we appreciate you sitting there in the heat and in the humidity and talking with us. I want to say thank you very much for our sponsors for helping us out today with getting the show put together, paying for the bills that need to happen to make it all happen, and just helping us out. We really appreciate it. You can go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com, where you can click on there to check out the subscribe page, WPwatercooler.com/subscribe. That's where you can find out how you can subscribe to this, as well as the other shows that we have on Water Coolers Network. And also, if you're interested in any of this stuff, we send out emails through that subscribe link. So if you go on there and click on the subscribe to our mailing list, I send out an email every week, and I just say, hey, do you want to be on a show? And if you're interested in being on the show, hit reply, and no joke, reply to me. It goes straight to my inbox. I don't do any of this signing up for a special thing or doing anything crazy like that. So feel free to make that all happen. Cory, if you want to be on Watercooler at one point, we'd love to have you come on Watercooler. So feel free to go do that. We appreciate that. So you have a good one. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.